Teresa was tired, so very tired. It came through in her voice, in her face, in her breathing. On our first consult call, I noticed it right away. I assumed she'd just had a few rough nights of sleep, but she said, "My life is one big hurry. Binge eating is the only time I stop." And then she explained what she meant. Normal meals came and went in a blur, standing, multitasking, half present. But binge eating was the only time she could stop her brain from thinking. She could stop trying and stop holding everything together. No wonder she looked and felt utterly depleted. For some people, like Teresa, eating isn't about hunger or pleasure. Food becomes a space where the pressure finally drops. And that creates a brutal bind because once binge eating is the only reliable break you get, it can feel Herculean to try and pull yourself out of it. Teresa had tried for years to stop binge eating, but she kept finding herself saying, "Just one more time." If any part of this is familiar, I'm with you, and I want this to make sense, not so you can judge yourself better, but so you can support yourself sooner. In the last episode, I talked about how the pressure to be good, to constantly be improving, or to lose weight can quietly load stress onto your nervous system. Today, we're going to zoom in on what happens when that pressure doesn't have many places to go. Because when food becomes the only reliable break you get, eating problems don't mean something has gone wrong. They mean something has been missing. This is the Breaking Up with Binge Eating podcast, where every listen moves you one step closer to complete food freedom. Hosted by me, Georgie Fear, and my team at Confident Eaters. Here's the reality. Pressure in your life is never going to be zero. So yes, we want to reduce unnecessary pressures where we can. But we also need to talk about something just as important. How do you discharge and manage the pressure that you have not been able to avoid? Many people I work with live in a constant state of self management. They're managing their eatings, their emotions, their productivity, their parenting, their bodies, their reactions. It's all managing and monitoring. Did I earn it? Am I doing it right? Should I be doing something more useful instead? When life is organized around being better, there's very little space where you're allowed to just be. So the nervous system stays switched on, alert, evaluating, and braced. And that's exhausting. Your nervous system, like your phone, is not meant to be left on all the time. When a system runs continuously without breaks to cool down, process what happened, or rebalance, pressure accumulates. And then the system starts looking for relief that can be immediate, reliable, available without asking anyone else, and effective at changing state. Food checks all of those boxes. This is where emotional eating often starts, not as a problem, but as a solution, a very human solution. It often functions as "I need a break from efforting." Food soothes, distracts, and gives your hands and mouth something to do. Eating can quiet your mind and create a small pocket where you're not required to be improving. If this sounds familiar, you're not weird, dramatic, or too much. That's just your nervous system doing its best with the tools it's got. The trouble begins when other types of rest feel undeserved, or slowing down feels unsafe, or any comfort has to be heavily justified. Under those conditions, emotional eating starts carrying far more weight than it was ever meant to carry. And eventually, it can tip. This is how binge eating often shows up. Binge eating isn't just more emotional eating. It's what happens when the pressure has been high for a long time, capacity is depleted, and the system finally drops the effort to regulate. Thinking narrows, urgency spikes, stopping starts to feel impossible. Not because you don't care, but because you're out of caring. And this is why emotional eating and binge eating aren't separate problems. They're 2 points along the same continuum. Emotional eating is often a regulated attempt to feel better, like the warning that pops up on your phone, asking if you want to close a few apps that are hogging your bandwidth. Binge eating is the phone shutting down to a black screen. Same system, different levels of strain. So when we talk about change, we're not just asking, how do I stop binge eating? Or how do I stop emotional eating? We're asking, where is the pressure coming from? And where does it go if food isn't going to be my only outlet? Let's name the types of pressure that stack up in real life. Sometimes it's physical pressure, underfueling, blood sugar swings, dehydration, lack of sleep. If you're in pain or have an illness, your body is running under considerable strain just at baseline. Sometimes it's cognitive pressure. This includes constant decisions, constant planning, constant mental tabs being open. If you're the one who keeps track of everything, you might know cognitive pressure very well. Sometimes it's emotional pressure, resentment that you swallow, anxiety you're trying to outrun, sadness you don't have space to feel, or anger you don't allow yourself to have. Sometimes it's relational pressure. This could be conflict that you're tiptoeing around, or long-standing loneliness, caretaking without adequate support, or feeling like you have to be the stable one. And sometimes it's moral pressure. The pressure to be good, being a good eater, a good parent, a good partner, a good employee, a good body, doing recovery right. Most of the time, the problem isn't that people with disordered eating aren't trying, it's that they're trying all day long. And so, if this pressure has nowhere to go, their systems have found a release valve. Food is a common one because it works quickly. The solution that I help people work toward isn't, well, let's just take away the food. The solution I want is to add relief. Not dramatic relief, not a total life overhaul, like torch your house, quit your job, and run for the horizon. It's more like small, reliable places where the pressure can come down before your system collapses. Let me get a little more concrete. There's body relief. This means eating enough, staying hydrated or relatively hydrated, sleeping enough, stepping outside. Body relief can come from a shower or warmth or movement that feels regulating, not punishing. There's also sensory relief. This can be found in quiet, dim lights, music, changing your environment, or just getting out of overstimulation. There's decision relief. This can look like simplifying dinner, repeating meals, or just using a short menu instead of this open ended question of what gourmet thing shall I craft tonight? You can also find decision relief in just letting good enough be good enough. There's also emotional relief. This includes naming what you feel out loud, journaling for 3 minutes, or letting yourself be disappointed without rushing to fix it. Relational relief is one of my favorites. This includes sending a text, calling somebody, or sitting with your partner and actually saying what's going on, not just venting, oh, I'm stressed, but actually letting them know what happened and what you're feeling. And there's permission relief. This is permission to rest without earning it, permission to stop trying for a little while, permission to be a person instead of a project. You don't need to be knocked flat with the flu to give yourself permission to stay in bed for a little while. We want to widen the menu of relief so food doesn't have to do the whole job. Because when you strike a better balance between pressure and relief, eating often changes on its own. Not because a person tries harder, but because food no longer has to be the only off switch. It can help to ask yourself a few questions, not as a quiz, but as a way to locate the pressure. Ask yourself, where in my day is effort the highest? That's often where you need relief most. And if possible, let's try and get your relief before urges spike. You can also ask yourself, where do I delay rest, comfort, or care because I feel like I haven't earned it yet? That belief itself is a pressure amplifier. You don't have to earn those things. And ask yourself, if food disappeared for a moment, what would I actually be needing right now? Is it quiet, contact, a rest, a break from decision making, just permission to stop for a while? If your honest answer is, I don't know, that's okay. That's very common, actually, when you've been in effort mode for a long time. Sometimes it helps to offer your nervous system a short menu instead of an open ended question. Here's a menu you can try. Do I need rest, or am I pushing through exhaustion? Do I need quiet or relief from overstimulation? Do I need comfort or permission to stop trying for a while? Do I need connection with another person or reassurance? Do I need food because I'm hungry? Or am I seeking food because I'm overwhelmed? You don't have to pick the right answer, and I can't tell you if you are picking the right answer. You're just helping your system slow down enough to notice. And sometimes the answer really is, I still need food. That's allowed. The goal isn't to replace eating, it's to reduce the pressure that makes eating feel urgent or out of control. I also want to say something important here. If you have a history of trauma, chronic stress, or long term deprivation, it can feel genuinely unsafe to stop striving. In that case, building safety isn't about flipping a switch. It's about slowly teaching your nervous system that relief won't be taken away. That's a process, and it's okay if it takes time. Before I close, I want to be clear that food is not your enemy. It simply has stepped in because something else wasn't available. All the times you grabbed food to get through the day, you were doing something to help yourself. That's an act of care, not an act of foolishness. Recovery won't be about taking away the one thing that works. It's about making sure food doesn't have to work so hard to do that job alone. So this week, I want you to notice one moment when food feels like the only break available and gently ask yourself, what kind of relief am I actually needing right now? You don't have to provide it perfectly, just noticing starts to change the pattern. Next episode, we'll get even more concrete and we'll talk about what to do when the urge is already there, how to respond without white knuckling or collapsing. If you want more support between episodes, I have a paid subscription called All Access. It includes recorded real life coaching sessions with my clients, shared with their permission, so you can hear what this work looks like in real conversations, where the pressure builds, what people try, what I suggest, what actually helps my clients, and how the next step gets chosen. It's only about $5 a month, and you can join at georgiefear.com/podcast or subscribe right inside Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening. I'm glad you're here, and I'll see you next time.